Imagine like a child. Using the fourth density to manifest in the third. Modern esoteric wisdom from beyond our human senses. In this audiobook, I share only the first part of my new book, Imagine Like a Child. I hope it brings insight for you on a higher level. In Love and Light. Henry Rowe. Introduction. One of the interesting things about this existence here in the third density is that it is all put together with nuts and bolts, almost like the mechanics of a machine that is created to perform one or another tedious task. You can argue all that you like, but the fact is this existence is precisely the same as it ever was. Everything ever done has already been done and will be done again. Go to Genesis in the Bible and you will see it there. The truth is that this manifestation that we call life has a very clear-cut reason for going on as it has done forever. Unlike the previously mentioned machine, we are not issued with a well-printed handbook to enjoy all of the benefits of creation, or is there a handbook of life? If you are conscious and awake, you need information filled with wisdom to reach self-realization on your way to spiritual ascension. I can just close my eyes and imagine like a child, is simply one of the most powerful ways in the unwritten operator's manual to exist between the multitude of absolute ignorant reincarnates. It is time to see past the literal. For all the fans of good action sequences, here is one for you. Jesus the Christ very successfully completed a scene in the Holy Bible, where from out of nowhere beat-up honest law-abiding citizens conducting business under the roof of a place of worship. Doesn't seem so holy anymore, does it, seeing that all religion is about is to make money? What is amazing is that no one sees the symbolism in this story and assume out of ignorance that the Christ is a street-fighting hero in the name of the Father. From one of the best operators' manuals of all time comes all that we need to ascend with ease, but instead, people choose not to listen to Jesus when he said, "Ask me nothing but rather to worship a God in their minds that were placed there by someone else." Oh yes. This is true for each and every religion on this third density planet. If you did not lose your temper at his stage, you may proceed to the wisdom that follows because you're awake. You probably know then that the meaning of the symbolism behind the Jesus incident is actually driving out the noise from the temple, where we are the temple, and in meditation, all must be silent. The two flies on my right foot. One hot summer afternoon I sat alone outside on a plastic chair with my feet crossed inside an inflatable pool. My son came to sit next to me for a while, enjoying the quietness. He was looking at my feet that were crossed inside of the plastic inflatable pool and told me he is observing some strange behavior from me. I was quite intrigued about this coming from him and inquired why he would think this. He gestured with his finger to my right foot on top of the left one, inside the small plastic pool, and on this foot of mine was two flies doing their thing. They were doing what flies do. My eldest son thought it strange that I would allow these menacing creatures to walk all over me in this way, with me just sitting and doing nothing. I told him that this is one of the most important life lessons that he was witnessing. He was quite amazed and stood there with a big frown on his face while I told him, "I have one of two choices to make, each one with a different outcome. I can react by chasing the two flies away, who in turn will keep returning, and in no time at all, they will have invited a bunch of fly friends to come to join in the fun. With me maybe losing my temper and then having to raise my voice to creatures who are only testing me and my patience at that time. Or otherwise, I could sit still and observe them while they playfully go about their fly business, using my right foot as a water park playground feature. In the process of observing, I don't place energy into reacting, thus the flies don't invite their friends over. Because this is what reacting to situations do, it keeps bringing the same situations and even escalating the situation in time to make one think they are a victim of circumstance. Do you get the symbolism of the events as it unfolded for me and my son? Now in prophetic literature, the poets, Prophets and or sages told stories with more than the face value literal meaning to tell their readers of the day about 2,000 to 5,000 years back, and giving the informed reader something of value within different layers of understanding and meaning from the same story. Do you get where I am going with this? There are real-life ascension nuggets of gold hidden in the holy books from old. And the only reason why it is hidden is that we forgot why and how to interpret their real meanings. Or maybe we were intentionally made to forget by historical events such as the burning of the Library of Alexandria and mass censorship when the Wilhelm Reichsorgan literature was destroyed. Events like these will tend to have left its mark of absence when people of today are unable to understand the true meaning of literature from an age where it was seen as illiterate must to see multi-layer meanings in not only the written word but also the grand pieces of art produced from that day. Me the Fly Whisperer. When you are an awake entity, you will see symbolism and other out of this density meaning in everyday life events. Another interesting story was when a colleague and I were away from home for a week to repair some equipment in the far-out rural regions of South Africa. We were confronted with a swarm of small flies inside the vehicle that we were traveling in. It was a great bother to my colleague, who was making hand gestures fanning the creatures out of the window on the driver's side where he was sitting. At that very moment, as speaking with a person and in a firm voice, I told the flies to exit the vehicle. To the astonishment of my colleague, all the small flies left the vehicle immediately. This same technique I will use when preparing food. Usually, in the summer there are a lot of big black flies all around here. They tend to invite themselves inside for a feast, just as I am halfway in creating my culinary masterpiece, spaghetti bolognese. I would then, in a firm voice as if I were speaking to a person, tell the flies to exit the kitchen, and they listen. They go out not to return that evening. I have observed other people preparing food in the same kitchen and the flies will stand their ground. When the cook at that stage reacts by killing them off one by one with a fly splatter, they just invite more friends for the occasion, lifting the temper of war each and every time this person uses the kitchen. I have also observed on my journeys people who attract all kinds of insects to themselves. It is as if these people are a magnet for this kind of creatures. And the more they react, the more this creature will come to test their patience. All of this was happening while I was the observer to the said events, and not even one of these creatures came to sit on me. This is precisely how our tests or karmic ties work. We here on this plane of manifested existence are handed situations, or we can call it tests. In these tests we can do one of two things. 1. We do as mainstream politics suggest and react or retaliate to situations. Now please just for one moment go into yourself and isolate that specific life situation that just keeps on returning into your creative existence. It does not matter the severity of this specific situation, isolate it. It is the first step to true liberation if you can, without placing a reaction, blame, shame, guilt, anger or fear, on that situation, and just observe it in your mind's eye. At that precise place and time where you do not place a label on that happening in your mind's eye, that is when you can release the event from your life. The specific procedure of cutting the karmic tie that binds you to this reoccurring life event is described in much detail within the pages of my book God is Light and So Are You. The main concept to grasp here is that each and everyone here and now has such a karmic test to overcome. The liberation in overcoming these tests are enormous and cannot be described in mere human words. 2. The second way of dealing with the situations that life throws at you is the one used for consistent spiritual growth. You first identify that you are within this reoccurring karmic test, and then simply without any reaction observe it as you would watch a satellite crossing overhead in a night sky, from one side to the other. No noise, and with the inner knowledge that the satellite will somewhere fade away in the distance. The facts are this: reactions such as blame, shame, guilt, anger or fear, are food to the entity which brings this event to you. The more you with vengeance try to kill the black flies in the kitchen, the more they will become the next time. We are here now to obtain spiritual maturity so that we can move on to the next density in the octave of creative existence. We are here to obtain spiritual perfection. That is what this is all about and nothing else. The spiritual master who's guiding us on our earthly journey will allow these occurrences to take place because it is a lesson that we need to learn in order for a successful ascension event or graduation from this plane of existence. You must identify the event and stop feeding a reaction to the entity which are bringing such happenings. Then the entity will start to starve and will move away from you. You do not need to understand or believe any of this for it to work. That is why Jesus the Christ asked God to forgive them who was killing him. He showed us all by dying in this absolute dreadful manner how never to return to this horrible third density of existence and move to the more heavenly density after this one. If you do not learn to cut your karmic ties here and now, you will reincarnate to this third density plane of existence, and each time relive your hell here until you get and implement the concept of the cutting karmic glue that keeps you here. Now for the most unbelievable fact of all, it is so very easy to cut the ties that bind you. I am not going in depth here because I did write about this subject previously in my book God is Light and So Are You. You simply need to forgive them. Forgive yourself or ask forgiveness from them and then forgive yourself afterward. In private say your piece aloud to the person while holding that which happened in your mind's eye. Afterward see the person or event drifting away from you in your imagination, and just let go, forget. This is the single most liberating act that will profoundly change that specific circumstance almost immediately. That is why it is called Forgive and Forget. It is the precise way that a silent prayer works. See my book Speaking to God. It is not too late, ever. Is it ever too late to plant a tree? No, it is never too late to plant a tree. Just think for one moment on the following: Jesus was dying and he forgave those who were killing him. He knew that his earthly body is going to die there and then, still he was showing us by example how to cut the ties of karma, by cutting his karmic ties through forgiveness. It is never too late in this life to cut those ties. If you realize early on how beneficial this act of forgiveness really is, you will start bearing the fruits of manifestation beyond your wildest dreams. There is another place here that we do not experience, and there are people there of a higher vibration that we cannot see. But they are there nonetheless. I am speaking of guardian angels, ascended masters, or your higher self. They have a great interest in having you succeed in your tests here and are available to assist you if you just ask them. No, not through long prayer with a never-ending list of demands. With accepting your part here and accepting yourself as an eternal entity inside of a suit borrowed from Gaia or Mother Earth. One day you will give back your suit to Mother Earth and be guided by your angel or higher self to a blissful place. If you are oblivious to the life lessons, you will be called to return to the third density to get those tests done. If you had a spiritual awakening and reached the stage of enlightenment or an ascension through self-realization, you may be guided to a higher density of manifested existence where you don't need to return to Earth anymore. No one will be left here, each and everyone will continue on to the higher dimensions of creative existence. It is just a matter of when. The property called faith. My wife once pointed me in the direction of the work of Rabbi Donald Katz, who taught me something that I was already using, but I was unaware of it in my existence as it came naturally to me. First, he made the statement that the word faith is not the property of mainstream religion, and then he made me realize something very profound. The intuition, gut feeling, that you get in life from an awakened state of being, which is bringing with it wisdom from a higher plane of creative existence. Profound realizations and answers, that is faith. Faith is more about knowing than it is about believing. This brings me to the next important concept. It is all inside of you already. When you close your eyes and imagine something almost like a daydream. Where is that movie playing itself out? Inside of yourself, of course. So where does your reality play itself out? Think about this very carefully, because in understanding this one thing you can change your whole existence. Say you are looking at an apple, for example, where do you see it? On the outside or inside of yourself? When closing your eyes and remembering that same apple, you then see it inside of your mind. But even with your eyes wide open, you also see the picture inside of yourself and not on the outside. The visual imagery of what is outside gets relayed by the senses and interpreted inside of your head. You are experiencing everything on the inside of yourself. That is why Jesus told those who asked him about the kingdom of God, that it will not come with observation but it is already within man. That is then where the place called hell also lives. If you chose to put yourself through it, then it will be your living reality. This concept is understood by the prophets and sages of all time as the inner planes. That is why Jesus said to enter into yourself, and that is why he was so cross with the people he called hypocrites. They hindered others from entering into themselves and made long false pretension of prayers. When you want to achieve or have something, go into your inner planes and realize it there. Even when going through the cutting of karmic ties through forgiveness, do it inside of yourself. Imagine that event or person in front of you. Your mind does not recognize that you are doing this, it will be taken as reality. That is why it works, because your whole existence is inside of you here and now. Dr. Dennis Waitley, Ph.D. from the movie The Secret, explained this concept very well when he stated in the movie that they took Olympic athletes and made them visualize running an event while connected to measuring equipment, and the outcome was that the same muscles fired with visualization as to when physically running the race. Your mind does not know the difference. Now you can use this information to your advantage with the process of reaching spiritual and intellectual enlightenment and self-realization. Opening the door into yourself. The same way that King Solomon built his house and the house of the Lord. In silent meditation with willful intention. This is the method used to enter into the inner planes. I give a very good and easy to understand practical exercise on how to perform any manifestation miracle in my book Speaking to God. It is very easy to understand and life-changing to perform the correct action of meditation, and you will start creating balance from within your autonomic nervous system. So ailments and illness will start to fade away and you will get inspiration and wisdom on a prophetic level. Jesus told us in scriptures that we can do as he did and more. But he also stated that why people call him Lord but do not do the things he shows us to do. He showed through symbolism hidden inside of stories to drive out the noise and enter into yourself. For those of you who think Jesus was a Christian, well, he was a Jew, and Christianity was founded by Constantine of Rome, who continued to do sun worship, even though he made Christianity the one and only lawful religion. They decided at Nicaea which books should make up the Bible, and in the 4th century censored out the books about reincarnation and mysticism, thus making the way for a literal belief system that until this day suppress people with guilt and fear. Christianity is one of the only belief systems thinking this is our one and only life and then it is heaven or hell forever. Why will they, the church, make people in fear of dying? Something so natural and liberating has turned into the most feared event of all time. There are very good people among us with good intentions, which is unknowingly leading the flock into different religions. They painted for us the picture of a God whom to fear, which they themselves never personally experienced but also had someone else told them the traditional passed down story. The same way that opinions from other people shape the pictures in our mind pertaining to belief in God is the same way the few painted pictures of poverty and suffering in us the many to subdue us in order to have their willing enslavement of the masses. We believe what is fed to us through our senses. But in the end, when we awake to the truth, we can reclaim our lost power. Jesus said that we, are gods. You are not alone, you have a guide. Everyone does. When you die here on this 3rd density, you go home, as do we all. You are the one judging yourself there, and no one else. You are shown your life from the viewpoint of the people that you encountered and feel the precise feelings which they felt from your interactions. That is why it is so important to realize that this is a test in a school of learning by practical experience. We don't owe any God anything. We together weave a tapestry of beauty and love on the wall of creational expansion. The proof of this is in meditation, and the key that unlocks this is willful intent. You need a clear intention when going into meditation. My intention is ascension through spiritual and intellectual enlightenment and self-realization. Then I told my spirit guide aloud but in secret about my intention, and then surrendered completely to the natural process that is our birthright. Seek first the kingdom of God and all will be added. Meditation is how you seek the kingdom of God because it is in the inside of who you are here. When you have found this inner kingdom, you will have your heart's desire whenever you desire. This precise method I teach in my book Speaking to God. This is what the law of attraction books like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill and The Secret by Rhonda Byrne is all about, going into that place within yourself and manifesting from there. In the end, we all want happiness and bliss. These things are on the inside. This is the true meaning to search for the kingdom of God. When you have inner joy, happiness, abundance, wealth and health on the inner planes of your existence, the rest of what is around you will bring to you the vibrational match. No amount of time in any church or holy place of worship can ever deliver to anyone what I went through on my journey to spiritual enlightenment.